Hi, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. Growth Drive is the #1 best-selling business advising platform, and this is our podcast, The Business Advisor Hot Seat. Now, in the hot seat, you're going to hear from industry leaders, thought leaders, your colleagues who are going to share tips, techniques, war stories about building a thriving advisory business based on delivering client wins. We're going to get into it. We'll get into it about the Growth Drive methodology, the Clarity software, what we see out in the world, so much more than just the system. And I'm also the author of The Growth Driving Advisor, which is based on over a decade of being an advisor to advisor, working with you and your colleagues, helping them build their practices, helping them through client engagements, and it's really proven strategies for leading businesses from stuck to best in class. Check it out. So strap in. We're going to light this up. Here we go. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And this week in the Business Advisor Hot Seat, we have my friend Corey Ganim. And Corey, I met you through Bob and Kathy Parent, and now subsequently you're getting involved in Carl Cox's community, also the 40 Strategy community. And Corey, man, welcome. It's great to have you. And you and I geek out about AI in so many different ways. So with that, I'll just toss it over to you. You could do a better job than me describing why your clients hire you, what you're passionate about. So welcome.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, George, thank you so much for having me. And I know you and I actually first connected, I think it was like almost 3 years ago now, back when I was in the e-commerce space and I was about to publish my first book. And Bob introduced me to you. He's like, Corey, if you want to write a book, you need to talk to George because he's done it a few times. So glad we kind of get to reconnect in the world of AI. So just a quick and dirty background on me. So like I said, I have an e-commerce background. I was in the e-commerce world for about 9 years, built a retail business online, mainly through Amazon's marketplace.
Cool.
And, about probably 8 or 9 months ago at this point, I mean, I was pretty successful in the world of e-commerce, and then, pivoted that into education and courses and coaching and all kinds of additional businesses in that realm. But I just got burned out with it. I mean, it's something where after 9 years, I'm like, I feel like I've done all that I need to do here, and it's time to move on to something I'm more interested in. And what I found to be a lot more interesting was the world of AI, a lot of these like no code automation tools, and just exploring my curiosity there. So if I had to kind of summarize what it is that I do now, you had said like, well, why do clients hire you? It is to help operators build an AI operating system, really install an AI operating system into their business. And this is operators typically doing 500K to 5 million a year in revenue.
Got it.
So this AI operating system is designed to remove them as the bottleneck so that they can scale without having to hire more people and without having to learn how to code. So, we could go a lot deeper on that if you'd like, but that's a quick and dirty.
Yeah, that's awesome, Corey. And I agree with you 100%. I get asked, how many employees does Growth Drive had? I'm like, well, do we get to count the AI as people? Because a good AI well deployed brings a lot of efficiency and allows us to have, from my perspective, allows us to have people not working harder, but doing work that they love. I know it's certainly brought a lot more satisfaction. I mean, I love my job to begin with, and now it just brings a lot more satisfaction to my work. So Corey, man, thank you. And our conversations are always, far ranging. You just said a lot there. You're about to present to Carl Cox's 40 Strategy cohort, right? He has cohorts of CEOs. You want to comment on that for a sec? Carl's a good friend of mine. One of our top Clarity users at the deep analysis level. He's a great guy, consummate pro. There's my plug for you, Carl. So Corey, you've been invited to, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah. So, and I'm really looking forward to that. So the topic of my conversation inside the community there is going to be, how do we turn Claude, right? I'm sure most of your audience here is familiar with Claude. How do we turn Claude into our AI employee and use that as kind of our foot in the door of building an AI operating system within our business, right? So the main things I'm going to touch on are really the difference between Claude Chat and Claude Cowork. So, I mean, George, I know you're familiar with Claude Cowork. A lot of people I talk to, it's actually crazy how many people I talk to are kind of in the trenches of AI, but they've only ever used Claude the chatbot. They've never used Claude Cowork, which
Cowork's killer too. Yeah.
Cowork is incredible. So for folks in the audience, if you're not familiar with that tool, think of Claude Chat as the brain, right? It's a chatbot. You ask a question, you get a response, but it's not proactive. It's only working when you're prompting it. Claude Cowork is Claude with hands, right? Claude
I
Cowork
love that. Yeah.
can go into your tools, it can connect to your CRM, it can go into your email, it can mess with files on your computer, and it can actually take action. So it's like if Claude Chat is level 1, Claude Cowork is level 2, and it allows you to actually automate a lot of knowledge work that either you were doing yourself or you were having an employee do, or you were maybe paying a virtual assistant to do, right? So again, within the context of Carl's community, we're going to be focusing a lot of our conversation on Claude Cowork, and then specifically how to build skills. So again, George, I know you're very familiar with skills, but again, I'm shocked by how many people I talk to who aren't. And if anything, that's probably good, because when I kind of explain to them what skills are,
That's why you get hired, right?
Yeah. Well, you see the light bulb go off because most people don't even know these capabilities exist. So
that's correct.
Again, for the audience, a skill, think of it as just like an SOP, right? A standard operating procedure, a recipe for how you do a specific task in your business. And to build what's called a skill, all a skill is it's a file, right? It's literally a markdown file. A markdown is think of it as like a Google Doc, essentially. So the inside this file is your SOP, is how you do the process. And once you built that skill file, you can give it to Claude or any AI agent. And now that AI knows how to go and execute that process. Yes. And it's going to do it the same way every time, the exact way you've laid it out in that skill file. So in the process of building a skill is actually really easy. Claude has a built-in skill builder skill, right? Which sounds kind of crazy, but I could go to Claude and say, hey, Claude, I'm doing this process this way. It's these 6 steps. I need you to turn it into a skill. And then I need you to run that skill every Monday at 7 a.m. And then it literally packages it into an automation. You can schedule it for 7 a.m. every Monday, and then it goes and executes without your intervention every time. So it's amazing technology.
It is amazing. It's funny, when Claude Cowork first came out, I think the first it offered to do a skill for me, and it offered to clean my desktop, and I absentminded was like, yeah, fine, go ahead. And next time I went to my desktop, it was so well organized. It was like the most OCD. I'm like, oh my God, it was like really, really well done. Skills are killer. So if we think about extending how we do what we do, improving the quality, and there's some things, in fact, you described how you start your day. Maybe that'll help people understand the extent to which you have increased your efficiency in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got, or what I built for myself is what we call a morning brief skill. So this is a skill that, again, inside of Claude Cowork, it runs every morning on a schedule at say 8 or 9 a.m. And it does a few things. It'll go through my emails and it'll see what emails have come in since I last checked my email that are urgent, right? Or that require a response from me. So it kind of summarizes those emails. Next, it looks at my calendar and says, okay, well, what does Corey have on the agenda for today? What are things that he needs to be prepared for, right? And then it'll surface any other notes or bits of information or context that it can pull from my email or from my Slack or from wherever. And it consolidates this into just a 1-page, essentially morning brief, right?
Yeah.
So, I can look at that morning brief within 30 minutes or 30 seconds of waking up. And now I know exactly what I need to do for the day, right? It's like all the mental bandwidth that would have been spent thinking like, oh, what did that email say? Or like, am I still waiting to hear back from that person? Or I know I need to prepare for this sales call at 2. It's like, it's all there. So it really, and that's one of like hundreds of examples of things that you can do with skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is killer, and it is good. And, we use HubSpot, we use Google, my life lives in Google Drive, HubSpot, and then these various LLMs and obviously the people. And it allows more time to interact with the people. In fact, well, I won't. People, you need to understand how all of this stuff works, because things like Claude Cowork can see deep inside. I mean, it can see deep inside your world. It can see deep inside a lot of the operational software and technologies that we rely on, from which we can't possibly hope to gather all of the information we need. Why not get some help, right? And if you hired an intern to do this, or you hired a VA to do this, they would do it, but it takes a lot of their time. Wouldn't you rather invest your time with your VA creating things, right? Doing human tasks. Inside the growth drive methodology, there are 24 growth driving objectives, and interestingly, there are 12 of them that are human only. But those human only benefit from things like skills. Then there are 7 that are human and machine, human and AI. And that's where agentic AI, especially over the next 12 to 18 months, and let's talk about that in a sec, become really relevant. And there are only 5. So those of you who are out there wondering where the heck does AI apply? There are really only 5 operational areas of your business that AI is emerging as capable of managing, of leading, of executing those functions. 5 of 24. That means 19 are human based. For all of you running around waving your hands over your head that the sky's falling, it's not.
Yeah.
The sky is just getting a prettier color, man.
Right.
So sorry for the rant.
Well, no, I think it's a very valid point, but to your point, right? So that's one of the things that I mentioned earlier, right? My whole mission and kind of what we do is helping people install an AI operating system. We've kind of boiled every business down to 5 pillars, right? I know I think you said 24 points that the growth drive touches on, but to even simplify further, right? Every business at its core is sales, marketing, operations, finance, and intelligence, right? You could even argue that intelligence folds under operations, but 5 just looks better on.
There's definitely an overlapping. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the idea is, so within each of those 5 pillars, every one of those pillars is made up of multiple systems within those pillars. And there's a lot of, let's say, sales subsystems that can and should be run by an AI agent. And then there's some systems within sales that should never touch an AI agent. They should be strictly human based. So I think that's where a lot of the misconception is like, oh, when somebody hears like AI for sales, they just assume that, oh, I'm going to try to, hand my best customer off to an AI agent and let them deal with it. No, that's not the case. We would never, that's an example of something we would always keep human, but where AI can really shine in a sales context, for example, is what we call a speed to lead agent, which in my opinion is the highest ROI agent any operator can build, where a lead comes in and you built an AI agent that can respond in a personalized manner to that lead within 60 seconds and kind of move it down the funnel to get it to where it's, booking a call to talk with a human. That is a sales function where AI can shine. Yeah. Right. And that's, I actually published a newsletter today on the speed to lead agent. I could go on for days about just that one agent.
Well, what I love, you just described one of those functional areas where it is, the man-machine interface. Let's just go with the man-machine interface or the woman-machine interface, the human-machine interface. Because when we talk about sales, so you and I both offer the market very sophisticated products and services. And if someone comes to the website and is doing some research, we can provide the agent, the artificial agent can provide them very efficiently with the resources they need and answer questions, etc. That's great. But what will not happen, and I don't think, especially given my demographic, people who were born in the 60s and 70s, if an agent calls me, I that'd be a giant. It's not a turnoff, but I'd be like, yeah, well, I'm not buying from you, pal. Yep. We need to talk to a person. We want to talk to, especially for these big decisions. So just illustrating your point. By the way, I want to read your newsletter. I want to make sure we're doing it. And we love best practices,
Yeah, I'll put you on the list. And it's funny enough. So the example that I was writing about in my newsletter today. So this was for a client of mine who's actually a client of Carl Cox's as well. He knows them well, but this is a husband and wife duo, right, that operate a wedding venue rental business. Okay, so they've got 3 wedding venues around North Carolina where they obviously rent them out to people having their wedding. So the problem that they were running into is they have one salesperson who's fantastic. She's doing a great job, but her highest and best use is doing in-person tours of their venues, right?
Demos, essentially.
Demos, exactly. Lead comes in, they book a tour, she shows them around the property, she closes them on a wedding package. Their average deal size is 11K, and she's closing 40% of in-person tours, right? So, in a perfect world, she's doing tours all day, and
Yes.
usually she is. Now, the issue, and where a speed to lead agent helped them immensely, is they've got 20 to 30 new leads coming in per week through their website, right? But if the salesperson is doing in-person tours from 9 to 5, lead comes in at 10 a.m., it's not getting a response until 5:30, 6 p.m. Sometimes, if it's a Friday, maybe not even until Monday. And at that point, that lead is as good as gone.
Yeah. So, and by the way, for you people out there who are not sales gurus and sales geeks, now is the best time. And every hour that goes by, that lead is getting stale,
Yep.
Not terminally stale, but it's important. Yeah.
That's why we call it speed to lead. And actually one of the statistics that I included in the newsletter today is I don't want to butcher it, but it's something like if you respond within 5 minutes versus 60 minutes, 21 times more likely to get a response from that lead, right?
Yep.
Like that is so far past the point of statistically significant. So again, anyways, so in terms of his business, right, leads are coming in. A lot of times they're slipping through the cracks because they're not getting responded to for hours or sometimes days. So we built a very simple AI agent that is not calling these people, right? It's simply responding to inbound leads. So lead comes in via email. The agent is able to read the email, right? What did the person actually say? And then it can reference the client's actual information about the venue. So if the lead reaches out about, the barn venue, the agent is going to say, okay, well, what do I know about the barn? It can seat 150 people. These are the vendors we have access to. This is where it's located. This is how far it is from restaurants, right? And then it can provide a very personalized, very individualized response to that lead. Yep. And then essentially get that lead to book a tour with the salesperson. And so again, if the salesperson's in-person close rate is 40%, if the agent can book 2 additional tours per month, which it easily can, then you're talking about $11,000 in additional revenue per month for an agent that, it's like a 2-hour build, really.
Yeah. I love that. And I don't know if you've read it. If you haven't, you might really like it. There's a great book out there by Mark Roberge, Roberge. It's called The Sales Acceleration Formula. And he provides fantastic data on exactly that speed to lead philosophy. And it's not jumping all over people, wrapping them in a bear hug. It's like, hey, thanks for coming. What information would be helpful? And right. It's that simple. And
it's a better customer experience because they reached out fully expecting not to hear back from you for hours or even days. And when they're so pleasantly surprised when they get a response 90 seconds later, that's not just hey, we received your email, we'll get back to you within 48 hours.
Which is better than nothing, right?
Which is better than nothing.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what's better than that is, hey, Kim, thanks so much for reaching out. I understand you're interested in our barn venue. It's a great place. We'd love to have you there. What is it specifically that you're interested in with the barn? Here's a couple of key points that you might be interested in. Let us know how we can help you. And by the way, if you want to come out and check out the property for yourself, here's a link to book a tour. That type of response is top tier customer service and is 100% going to book more tours, therefore going to make you more money.
It's funny. I'm busy working on a white paper, and you just hit on, you want to, when is customer satisfaction generated? All the time.
Yeah.
And that is, you had me at hello. So I love that, man. what else are you working on? So that's what you're gonna talk to Carl's community about building AI and Claude Cowork. It's interesting. Our own AI has we have a maybe you and I should talk about, and you can help the market understand. I'm going to ask you. This is a softball. What's the difference between an LLM and a RAG, or a retrieval augmented generation?
Yeah, so the LLM is kind of the brain. So the I guess the RAG is like the database that the LLM pulls from, right? That's my
Yep.
understanding. Now,
Yep.
I will say I'm not the most technical by any means. I'm familiar with those from a high level, but the LLM is, it's your Chat GPT or your Claude.
Big.
It's
Yeah.
the chat bot that, hey, I have a question and it's going to give me an answer. RAG, again, as far as my understanding is concerned, is the database that powers the LLM, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like these LLMs aren't just like, godlike beings that just know everything. It's
No.
they're pulling from a database, a very large one at that,
Yep.
where they're able to go and essentially anticipate what it is that you're looking for, and it pulls it from a database like a RAG database. At least
Yeah.
that's my understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And it's what people. It's interesting because users tend to believe that if they're using like the type of answer they would get from just going to Claude, right? Just out to Claude generally is the type of answer they're going to get from any AI. And it's like, well, no, Perplexity and Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT, that is one experience, and they're similar, right? They're not the same,
Right.
but they're similar. When you're dealing with a RAG, and imagine the AI inside HubSpot, fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a RAG. The Claire inside Clarity are those are limited purpose, limited scope, and we're purposefully putting blinders on it to say, hey, whoa, we have a methodology, we have a process, and we had to actually, it's funny, we had to train Claire to say, that's beyond the scope of why I exist.
Yep.
Yeah, man, it's and well, I'll leave it there. We absolutely love developing AI and helping people become more efficient, which is what AI does at the end of the day, right?
Right. Well, and another concept too, George, that I think your audience would enjoy, and I think maybe we could go a little deeper on, is so there's been a lot of buzz in the. So I spend a lot of my time on X, right? That's my
Yep.
social media platform of choice because of the fact that there's such a big AI community on X, right? Obviously, Elon Musk owns X. A lot of the tech people kind of followed him there. And so because of that, there's a lot of people talking about AI on X. And a
Yes.
trend that's gotten really popular over the last couple of months or so is this idea of having what people kind of call like a second brain, right? Like an AI powered second brain. Essentially, think of it as like it's kind of like Chat GPT, but for either your personal data or your company data, right? And I've been saying this for the last couple of months, and this is my prediction, and I'm 100% convinced it's going to be true. Every company in the world is going to, at one point or another, create their own second brain, which is another term for just their company knowledge base, right? So
Sure.
right now, and like I know my company has this, your company has this, everybody listening to this, their company has this. Think about how much context and information they have just spread throughout the enterprise. Think about all the call transcripts and emails and Slack
I love
messages
that you're bringing this up, man. Yeah.
and proposals. I mean, there is so much data floating around every organization in the world. What if that organization had all of that data in one centralized repository that they could query at any given time for a number of reasons, right? Anything from, well, hey, what did me and Kim talk about on that call 2 weeks ago? What was the decision we needed for client X? All the way up to, hey, let's look at the trends of the amount of emails that our employees have been sending at what parts of the day over the last 3 years so that we can determine, whatever. Like there's
Whatever. Yeah.
so many data, but there's so much you can do with that data. So I've made this prediction loud and clear. It's like, look, you need to build your company knowledge base to have a competitive advantage now, because in 2 years, it's going to be table stakes. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's going to be a whole industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry of service businesses that are created from nothing, who that's their offer. They are building personalized knowledge bases for companies, right? Like I've had people come to me and say, hey, can you come into my company and look at all the different data sources we have and just like essentially structure it in a way where we can turn it into our own AI,
Corey,
right? Like
man.
that's kind of the core at
And
at
I
its
did
core.
not ask you to say that, right? We did not. This is not pre-staged, because you do want to know why I'm so excited about what you just shared.
I do, yeah.
We are, you just, not many people understand that repository of information is data. And we are
Yeah.
about to launch, and I'm hoping by the end of this week. So today's May 6th. So on or around the 8th, an integration of AI note taking, Zoom, Claude, Teams, Google Meets, whatever the last one was, but we're bringing those notes into the Clarity software. So there's through the slick API, pull the notes in, allocate them to a given client. Now imagine as you're using software, right? And you've so we're doing analyses, we're pulling in some financial data, select financial data, and you're bringing in all of these client conversations, whether your client is recording them, you're recording them with your client, you're taking notes by yourself, you're having meetings with other advisors. All of that can go into the client's data set. And as we're creating analyses and deliverables and executive briefings and plans and all of that data, thank you for using that term, is available to the AI, to the RAG, to parse, pull, and deploy. And that is kick. I'm as excited as you are, and I agree with you. We already have a brain. My Claude Cowork is essentially a brain for the business. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles, videos, books. Last time I looked, about 600,000 words written, not including transcripts, et cetera. How do you keep track of all that, and how do you leverage all of that? We all come across a file, that we created 2-3 years ago that we're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I had forgotten it even existed.
You forgot it existed. Imagine if it was just stored away permanently in that knowledge base, that at any given point in time, you don't even have to be asking about that piece of content specifically, but the AI is able to make connections. If let's just say that's a book on sales, right?
Yep.
And if you ask your second brain, like, hey, I need help improving the sales process, you weren't asking about that book specifically, but the AI is smart enough to know, oh, hey, look, in my knowledge base, I have this book on sales from 2 years ago, so I'm going to reference that in my response. And then you're like, oh, duh, I forgot about that. That was such a good resource, and you never would have been able to leverage it if it wasn't stored in your knowledge base.
Yep.
And so what I think would be really just an interesting exercise is, a company out there, they build their knowledge base for the first time, it's set up, it's ready to go. Just as a thought experiment, I would love to see that CEO ask the internal knowledge base, hey, based on all of our data, everything you have access to, what are 10 of the most interesting trends that you notice about our data that could help us be more efficient or make more money? And make it that vague and open-ended. And I guarantee you that it's going to come back with some stuff that would blow your mind, especially if it had access to, call transcripts, emails, Google Drive, everything.
Yes.
I can't even begin to think about what it might say, but I guarantee you it would be like earth shattering.
Heck yes. Heck yes. This is why
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, we are absolutely on the same page. Well, and it's, what's interesting that I'm seeing in the behaviors of people, as we train people, we help with knowledge development, and we help people, stop. You can use perplexity. I love perplexity, right? My wife calls her Plexi, my girlfriend, right? Perplexity. Well, you can use perplexity for basically web search.
Yep.
But I don't know about you. A lot of the women and men in the growth drive community have figured out that they can have a conversation, a real conversation with AI, and ask AI to go and find supporting resources. Ask AI to shoot holes in arguments. Go far, so much further. And in fact, we have a tool that my friend Andy Weevil created called a sparring partner. Now that is a negative. Think of that as an ill-tempered drill sergeant. But
Yeah.
but 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 you can use AI we're busy finishing a white paper. I'm in an open conversation. I love chat for certain open AI, and we also our own RAG has both OpenAI and Anthropic
Yep.
capabilities, and I find myself having conversations. It's the best
Yeah.
in ways that I can pick up. I certainly have colleagues I could discuss this stuff with, but not as time efficiently and not as timely as
Right.
literally having a conversation with Claire, who I affectionately call Claire One, my Claire out in the wild, as a custom chat.
Yeah, I like looking at it as a thinking partner. I mean, I do this all
Totally.
the time. I mean, there's so many times, especially at night, if I just have like an idea pop into my head, and it's like I'm not going to call out my business partner at 10 p.m., but I can just pull up a Claude chat and kind of bounce that idea off Claude. And I think the important thing to keep in mind is a lot of times it'll tell you what you want to hear. So a
Yes.
lot of
It's like
times
a
in
fan.
my prompt, I will be
Yeah.
clear and say, hey, don't just take what I'm telling you at face value. I want you to give me real feedback, and if there's holes to poke here, then poke the holes. And
And
usually, just by saying that, it'll give you a much more objective response.
yeah, yeah. I actually have taught both both my Anthropic and my OpenAI part friends to respond to yes, no, maybe so. And
Yeah,
then they'll that's their prompt to shoot holes in my thinking. And we should talk about the downside, which is
yep,
that AI. There are a couple of things. One, if you keep a thread going too long, AI can start to your analysis starts to degrade. They're getting better, but
yep,
it can degrade, and AI can be it's it's not wrong like it used to be. Like it used to say, the sky is purple. That was early. That's going back a year or two, but it will state a fact. You better double check, do your homework because, and I've had it happen here recently where it stated something that I just happened to have the knowledge that it was just wrong. And
right,
ladies and gentlemen, AI makes mistakes like an intern would, right? Like a
yep,
colleague would. And it's getting, AI tomorrow will be better than it is today. Today, AI is the worst that it'll be in history because it'll be better tomorrow.
yep,
Which is very cool. Very, very
absolutely.
cool.
No, it
So
is
what do you
important to keep that
see?
in. I
Go
was just
ahead,
going to
Corey.
say
Sorry.
it is important to keep that in mind that there is a lot of fact checking that still needs to be done. Like I think that's where
Yeah.
people get into hot water is they ask a question about something that they maybe don't have a lot of context around or don't really know, and then they get a response from the AI that's very confident. It looks legitimate. It sounds good on paper, but it's incorrect, right? Either it was overinflated or it was underinflated, or sometimes it was just made up entirely. So being able to kind of fact check it, I think is just good best practice.
Well, and I'm not going to give away what we're doing behind the scenes, but do you find yourself, or I will, and I love your comment. Like I will take this white paper on which I'm working, and I can periodically move it. I'm working on it in an open AI or in my own Claire one, but I will take it over to my Claude that has been trained a little less. What was interesting is that my Claude project came up to speed really accurately with far less information than my original. Now, of course, we're a year into it, so that's not really a fair comparison. But I will use one model to fact check. I'm like, okay, I want you to look at my sources, and this isn't something that happens in very fast, and it may take it a few minutes. But I'm
Yep.
like, please fact check this. Check my footnotes. Just check it, check it, check it. Um, have I made any mistakes? I tend to go and pull articles myself and then feed them, but and that is it's super helpful. Comment?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I do the same thing. I'll bounce one model off the other all the time. It's like, I'm doing most of my work in Claude. It gives me an answer. Then I'll copy it over to Gemini and say, hey, what do you think? Right. Or, hey,
Yeah.
did I make any mistakes here? And then just kind of ping ponging them back and forth. I think that's just general best practice too.
Yeah, but and by the way, Gemini is coming on fast. Copilot is getting some black eyes out there. Especially, there was a report that Microsoft itself isn't using Copilot, right? They're
Oh,
using,
really?
yeah. So it might be helpful for folks to hear your perspective. So you work heavily in Claude. Why why do you prefer Claude? What is it about Claude?
So it's generally just the Anthropic ecosystem has been the one that I've just gravitated towards for
Yeah.
I can't even say there's a good reason. I think because when Cowork came out, it was the most accessible agentic tool at the time. There was like I think the first agentic tool I ever used was Manus, which
Hmm.
is now owned by Meta, and Manus is great. But again, I found I was a heavy ChatGPT user at first. Then I switched to Claude and I felt like the quality of responses in Claude, and Claude's just a better writer too. And I do a
Claude is
lot
a
of
better
writing.
writer. That's one of the things where, yeah,
Yeah. So because of that, I'm like, well, I'm already doing a lot of my work in Claude. I've kind of gotten used to it. So I kind of just stuck to it. And then again, Cowork came out and I was like, oh, this is the best agentic tool I've used. I'm just going to start using this. So again, it's just where I'm comfortable and it's where a
yeah,
lot of my stuff already lives. So not to say I don't test other tools. Like I'm a big fan of Perplexity's personal computer, which is their agentic tool. I think it's
yep,
incredible. I'll
it
use
is
it.
excellent. Yep.
Yeah, I use Perplexity personal computer as more of like my AI assistant, and I use Claude Cowork as like my AI employee, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I do a lot of like my knowledge work in Cowork, and I do a lot of my just like follow ups and admin and just general assistant style work with Perplexity Computer.
It's interesting. I was using OpenAI for analysis, right? I really liked its analytical. It's like talking to an engineer,
Yeah,
and it softened that edge. OpenAI is not stupid. They're listening. They're reacting to the market. And I found that Claude, Anthropic, was a better writer, was more of an artist, right? A better
yeah,
writer, gave me much, prettier deliverables. Now, in the last just 2 or 3 weeks, OpenAI has said, "Oh, you think our thinking is good, but our output is ugly? No problem. We're going to give you beautiful outputs." And so now they're neck and neck again. I agree with you, but they feel different when you're operating them.
yeah,
So it's almost like having these two colleagues
yeah.
that, by the way, I'm speaking selfishly, allow me to dump a bunch of ideas. So I do a lot of methodology development, process development for our community,
Hmm.
and it allows me to dump. I've always done a free. I've always dictated. Like I wrote my book. I just started talking, and a hundred
Yep.
thousand words later, that's a lot of talking. I then had something I could hammer into a manuscript, and and I used a human to do that. That wasn't that long ago. My book published in 2023, and we were just starting to get AI. Right,
Yep.
I was sitting there and on my just starting to get the earliest versions of OpenAI, and I had a human go through. Now, I'm going to publish a second book, and my intern is going to be a machine, and
Yep.
it's which is fascinating. And then I will use humans for design. I will use humans for layout. I will use humans. The humans are critically important, but the ease with which I think we're able to create and deliver has never been better.
Agreed. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's made a lot of things a lot easier, and it's made certain things harder. But overall, there's always going to be a human in the loop. So I think
Yeah.
that's where people that are kind of freaking out and saying the sky's falling, it's like maybe in some places, but I think it creates more opportunities than it destroys.
Yeah, absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, you're much more likely to click on an article that tells you that the entire workforce is going to collapse than you
Yeah.
are to click on an article that sings kumbaya about AI. And think about we're all very smart, but think about that. Think about the news and what the news, how you feel about the news, and then the
Right.
news telling you about AI. and piano, because this is actually, I believe, and I'm a huge fan of Musk's thinking, and if you apply a maker versus taker mentality, those of us who really subscribe to being makers, and to delivering more value than we extract, are AI is a profound change. And it's going to be a profound change, I hope, in the global human experience. And I'm not going to get on my soapbox. All right, Corey, man, it's hard to believe we've been chatting for 40 minutes. And,
It's flown by.
and yeah, it does fly by, right? This is a great conversation. Again, you and I always have these great conversations. Thank you. As we wrap up, you have any thoughts, topics we didn't touch on that you'd want to share?
So honestly, we touched on a lot of it. The only thing I would have gone deeper on, and maybe this is the subject of a future episode that we can do together, but like I said, the AI operating system as a concept, I'm really bullish on. That's kind of what we're building our entire business around.
Sure.
And I gave one example, obviously being the speed to lead agent, but there's so many AI powered systems that can fit into any of the 5 pillars of business we discussed. So if anything, maybe we can touch on those in a later episode, but
Sure.
we hit on a lot of it. We hit on the personal knowledge base, which is one of my favorite topics. So no, I think we covered a lot of it.
We did cover a lot. It's funny. I divide the world into 4 executive functions: executive, operations, finance, and revenue, which sort of tracks against your worldview. And maybe that is the topic for another, and we'll dive into those, that 12, 7, 5. We are people, and we will gather around the campfire. Yeah. And I almost broke into SpongeBob there, but we are people, and fundamentally that will remain true, and we will do with AI as we have with industrial robotics. And medical robotics, right? It'll make things better, but it's not going to replace people. So,
right.
Corey, man, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Do send over that article, and if you're cool, let us put a note if you're okay with me sharing it in our community. And until next time, man. Until next time, I'll be on that call of Carl's, so I'll be listening in.
Awesome,
Corey. How do people reach you?
Yeah, so they can just send me an email. My email address is corey@returnmytime.com, and that's COREY. And then another thing too, I mean, obviously we're talking on a podcast here. If people like hearing about AI in a podcast context, I've got a podcast called Build with AI, where if you're a non-technical entrepreneur and you like this stuff, you want to hear how real workflows are built and see them in like a screen share format. That's really how I cover AI, once or twice a week on the Build with AI podcast. So I'd point people that direction too.
Awesome. I will be subscribing. Shame on me. All right. Corey at
returnmytime.com.
There you go. Returnmytime.com. I wanted to say it 3 times. So there we go. All right, Corey, man, thanks a million. And we'll talk very soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, George.